Hello, hello, everyone. I'm just going to go ahead and mute everyone as you're coming in. So we're just going to stay muted for basically the duration of the webinar. But as we're going through, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to go ahead and you can put those into the chat there. So for anybody that doesn't know, there is a chat box. So you can click on the chat option at the bottom of the screen. And that's going to allow you to see our chat box there. We do have two of our newest members here with us today that are going to be answering you guys' chats, and then also adding in some additional tutorial videos, links to those, and then also links to our support center. So as we're going through, feel free to put anything that you might want to ask into the chat there. And then also we'll have those links coming through periodically as well. So we've still got some people coming on though, so I'm going to wait just a couple minutes. But I want to thank you guys for joining me today for our tips and tricks webinar. We are going to be going through the details hidden gems. So what that means is that we're just going to go through all of the features that primarily people tend to overlook or are just not utilized as much as we feel that they should be, because they are great time-saving features. And they're really going to help you along the way. So anybody that is just joining here, I am going to mute everyone as you come in, just so that we can kind of keep everything nice and quiet here as we're going through. And then, like I said earlier, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to put those into the chat there. And I also will kind of stop periodically and ask if anybody has any questions. So again, feel free to put those into the chat there. Alrighty, so we've still got a couple people coming in. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. All right, can everybody see my screen here? Allison, can you guys see my screen? Okay, wonderful. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the first feature that we have today on the agenda. So that feature is going to be our custom properties. So I'm inside of an event that I created. This event doesn't really have anything going on in it at the moment.
Let's look into. I guess it hasn't been.
Let's go.
If you guys could just mute as you're coming in, please, that would be wonderful. Thank you. All right, and then right here we have our custom properties feature. So we got asked a lot, what are custom properties? What can I do with them? Where do they show up? Just what is a custom property? So custom properties are just that, they're custom. So they really can be anything that you want. It could be the budget for your event. It could be your client's Pinterest board link. It could be a link to maybe a floor plan that you've created outside of details if you have that in, let's say, a Google document or something to that effect. So you can add all of these different things into your custom properties. One of the things that I get asked an awful lot is, okay, well, I've got 10, 5, however many different counties that I do events in, and I like to pull a list of all of the events that I have in that particular county. So if I were going to do that, I would want to make a custom property to accomplish that goal. So I'm going to go ahead and for my property name, I'm going to go ahead and name that county. This is going to be a text property, but you also have the option to do like a numeric property, such as like the budget. You can also do that URL property, just like the Pinterest link for your client or some outside document that you wanted to add here. For my property value, that would be the actual county. So in this case, it would be Volusia. And then I have the option to either search by this on the event list or not. If I select yes, what that means is I can then narrow down my event list based on who has that custom property of County Volusia. And that's going to allow me to then create a wonderful report that I can run to say, okay, in the month of October, I signed these 5 people from Volusia County. All the rest of my events were from, let's say, Flagler County. So if I do that, I'm going to go ahead and click the done button. The third thing is, where does it live? So like I said, it does live on the event list. You can pull a report from that. It also lives here on the details page. So anytime that you come in here to look at details about your event, that custom property is going to live here. If it's a URL field, it will be a clickable live link. So you can click on it and go directly into their Pinterest page or the floor plan or whatever you guys have outside of details that you wanted to include here. And so it's going to also live on this details page. At this time, there is not a client-facing option for custom properties, but our hope is that we will be able to add that in the future. So if that's something that you guys would be interested, let me know. And you can go ahead and put in a feature request for that as well. So feature request, you can go ahead and put in from the main menu under the support option and then contact us. So I want to know what you guys think. Would you like to have these listed on the proposal? Would you not? Do you like them more just for back end facing? Let me know. But that's pretty much what I would say about custom properties. Is just they can be anything. They're endless. Just like we say on our item gallery, how you can make as many collections as you want, as many sub collections, as many sub collections. Custom properties are the same way. They're very open ended, and you can really do anything that you can think of. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we're going to go over into the worksheet here, and we'll talk about a couple of different time-saving features there on the worksheet as well. So heading over to the worksheet here, I'm starting off with a blank canvas, if you will. I've got my default template that's going to load in here, but aside from that, I don't have any recipes or items or anything that I had put in here. So because I wanted to go ahead and just create this event really quickly for everyone, I'm going to go ahead and input a template. So for those of you that don't know, templates allow you to basically copy an old event, and then you can use that same event, let's say your blush weddings, your all white weddings, if you have different styles or trends that are going on that you think you might use this same type of event again, you can make a template out of that. The way that you would do that is to click on the save button at the bottom, and you would go ahead and save that as a new template. From there, you can name that template, give it a description, add any tags that you might want to add in there, and then click save. Once I have a template that I've saved, I'm going to go over to the options menu in the upper right-hand corner, and then I'm going to go into my load template option. So what that's going to do is it's going to bring up a box here, and I can go in and select any one of the past templates that I might have created and load that directly into this event. So Erica and Jeff, for example, I can go ahead and select that template and load it in. It's going to ask me if I want to save, because I didn't have any unsaved changes there. I don't really, doesn't matter if I did have any or not, because I didn't do anything on this worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes here. So now I've loaded in my template here. I've got my color palette, recipes, items, anything that I had previously had on my worksheet when I saved this from Erica and Jeff's wedding. So this is going to save me a lot of time trying to recreate what I've already done. So it's going to have all of my recipes and items in there. But of course, we know that no two events are going to be the same. So I'm going to want to possibly add some additional items. Maybe I want to take some of the items that I'm already using on this worksheet and create an entirely new recipe for this event. And the easiest way that I can do that is to favorite every item that I'm using on the worksheet to the design board with one click. So this feature is located in the options menu. If I look at my drop-down menu, I have one that says favorite all items. So if I click on that, you'll see that it's now going to populate every item that I'm using on this worksheet over onto the left-hand side. So that is our favorite all items button there. In addition to favoriting all of your items though, you possibly will also want to add over your recipes. So to do that, we're going to go to our recipe options button here. And then from the recipe options, I'm going to add a new gallery recipe. And then if I wanted to, I could favorite that recipe onto my design board. So I'll show you how simple that is. If I go in here and I create a blank recipe, I could add some additional items in here. Okay. And then I can favorite the recipe over onto the design board. So you can do this before you have, let's say, your photos in there. You can do this before you have your items in there. Maybe you just have a photo and no items. And then, of course, as you continue to build out this arrangement and you added a photo and you added some items, maybe you adjusted your cost and your quantities and all of that. Maybe you want to update this recipe. So let's say I'm going to click into this particular field here. And I'm going to select one of my different recipes that I have on here. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and select this particular recipe here. And let's say I wanted to save this recipe to both the gallery and then also I want to update it there on my design board there. So I can go to recipe options and I'm going to update the gallery recipe. What that does is it's now going to update the recipe that I have in my gallery so that I can use that same recipe over and over again. If I go in here and I look at this particular recipe, I can see all of the items here that I had saved. In addition, I can go ahead and give this recipe a name. And then just anything that I wanted to add here or update, I can update that gallery recipe. I can also create a new gallery recipe. So maybe I have this particular iteration, but I wanted to add in some additional items. Maybe I want to make a bridal version and then also a bridesmaids version. I can go ahead and create a new gallery recipe while still maintaining the original. I can also click into view what I have currently in the gallery, or I can pull in, so maybe I made some changes, but I want to revert back to what I have in the gallery. I can then go ahead and update from the gallery as well. So several different options there for time-saving features. For those types of arrangements that you are continuously making over and over again, like I said, the blush wedding, the all white wedding, you know, we've got a couple of different peach trends and themes that are coming out right now. So you can save all of those into your recipe gallery. And then what that allows you to do is to then go into a new event and use that same recipe that you've already spent, let's say, 20 minutes to an hour on doing. And that's going to save you that same amount of time when you go use it the next time. So in that case, it's going to just be a really nice time-saving feature and keep you from recreating the wheel. And then, like we said, you know, no two events are the same, meaning that also no two recipes are really going to be the exact same. Maybe you want your bride wants a couple of other flowers in here that were not originally included. Maybe your bride says, you know, this is a really nice recipe, but it's a lot. So maybe you want to take some of those items out. All of those things can be done. And then of course, you've saved yourself that initial 20 minutes to an hour in creating the recipe. And now you've just spent maybe 5 to 10 minutes adjusting quantities and pulling in maybe 1 or 2 additional items. So that's going to save you a lot of time there with the recipe options menu. The next thing that I want to look at here is also pertaining to recipes, and we have talked about it in a previous tips and tricks webinar, but I want to touch on it again because a lot of people are not utilizing this feature, and I think that it's really a great upselling feature, if you will. So let's say I have a bride and she really likes this arrangement, but you know, she wants to stay in a different budget. So let's just say, for example, that this recipe is a $300 recipe. But I can then go ahead and go down here to a secondary line. Let's say I can add in a new recipe, or maybe I want to use the same recipe that I already had. So if I add in that blank recipe there, and let's just say I pulled in, you know, kind of the same color scheme of items, but just in different varieties here, let's say. And I've got just a bigger, more voluminous, if you will, bouquet here. And now my bouquet here is going to be 500. All right, so now I've got two different options here. I have one for 500, and then I have one that's going to be 300. So now I can go to my bride and I can say, you know, we have this really nice bouquet here, but if you're looking to spend just a little bit more and get a much nicer quality of product, you're going to get more of that product. You can go ahead and choose this secondary recipe here. Because my bride hasn't chosen that yet, and I'm just giving her that option, I'm going to go ahead and use my proposal suggestion tool here. And what that's going to do is it's going to add the recipe onto the proposal in the line items page, just like it does for all of my other recipes. But it's also going to list out the price without including it in the grand total. So that way my client can say, okay, if I chose to go with this one's going to be 500, or I can go with this other variation here for 300. And they can make an informed decision there. And that way it gives them options. And as most of you will know, if you give somebody some options, I would say about 50 to 75% of the time, they're going to pick a higher end product, if you will, especially if, let's say, it's only $150 difference, or maybe it's $100 difference. And that doesn't seem like a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but if you upsell them on the bouquet, if you upsell them on the boutonniere, on the centerpieces, on, you know, their huppah, whatever it is, if you're upselling them on multiple items here on your worksheet, it's going to add up. That $150 times 7 is really going to make a big difference. So utilizing that proposal suggestion feature is a great upselling feature. And then it also, if your bride is unsure, let's say if they want to go with this style versus that style, you can have two different styles there for them to pick from. And it just really elevates the customer experience, if you will. And they feel like they had more hand in selecting their items and styles and you know, bouquet shapes and all of that than they would have otherwise if you said, this is what I can do, this is the option here, and this is how much it costs. So just allowing your bride to have some additional options there is always great. And that proposal suggestion feature is a great upselling tool.
Brandy, we did have a question that just came in.
Sure.
And the question says, I found when I change the photo and update recipe, the new photo doesn't go with the recipe. I only get the new photo to connect with recipe as if I have saved a new recipe. Am I missing something with the update option?
So when you click on the update recipe option, it's not updating it in your backend. Is that what you're saying?
I believe this is what that person is saying, yes.
It definitely should update whatever you have in the gallery. I mean, possibly you could be clicking on the new gallery recipe. I mean, it's definitely not impossible that something happened there, but I would be happy to take a closer look if you have a specific example of an event that's happening on, so that I can kind of take a closer look at that, because the intended function there is for you to click on update gallery recipe, and that would update in your recipe gallery with any photos or items or quantity changes or anything like that that you might have made. So Allison, if you'll just grab their name and everything, and then we can reach back out as soon as we're done with our webinar here today, we can take a closer look at it.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for that question. All right, so now that we have some recipes and items and things on here, we've got our quantities. The next thing that our minds should go to is, being cost effective. So as a business owner, that one stem here, one stem there, it's going to really add up, just like what we were saying with the $50 extra, let's say, for the bouquet, but 50 times 7 is a lot. So I want to make sure that I am utilizing full bunch counts. And the way that I'm going to do that is to utilize our items used report. So on the design board, on the menu button here, I'm going to have an option that says items used. And then on the items used worksheet here, I can see how close I am to a full bunch. So
I'm on that.
you mute our microphones there. Allison, you can click on people and mute their microphones. Thank you. All right, sorry. So here we can see how close we are to a full bunch. So we've got anything in green is going to mean that we are right on the money. We are using complete full bunches. Anything in gray means that we are very close to a full bunch. And then anything that is in red means that we are absolutely nowhere near a full bunch. We definitely need to either add more or take some out. So if I click to expand one of these, you'll see that I can tell how many I'm using. So in total, I'm using 25 stems. Each bunch is 10 per. So in that case, I'm going to be using 3 bunches. And I am 5 stems away from making a full bunch. So I can also see where I'm utilizing these stems in. So if I were looking at this, I would first and initially say this toss bouquet. So I'm only using 1 stem here. I can up that to make it 6 stems, and then I've got full bunches, or I can just completely remove that, and then I can find where I want to take the additional stems out of. So I've got 4 stems still to find out where to take them from. So I would go in here and just find out where I want to go on here. If I click on my magnifying glass here, or my search tool, if you will, it's going to automatically take me to the recipe that I'm utilizing that product in. From there, I can then go ahead and just open it and remove the item out of the recipe, or up the quantity if I would prefer. So this is a great tool to just make sure that you're staying within your margins, that you're using full bunches, that you don't have that additional couple stems here and there that, you know, really push you over the edge on a bunch where really you could have just taken that out and had 2 bunches instead of having to buy 3. So items used tool here, again, that's going to be found under the menu on the design board, and then items used. Every one of these different fields are going to be expandable, and you can see where and how much you're using in each one of your recipes. All right. And then the last thing that I want to look at here on the worksheet is actually going to be called privacy mode. So some of you also might have seen this be labeled as consultation mode. What this does is it's going to allow you to hide all of your back-end costs. So if we look at a recipe here, we can see that we've got our total cost. So this is the cost that we ourselves are paying from the wholesaler to gather these items. And then we have our markup percentage, whatever that happens to be. We can also see individually the cost per stem here versus what the client is going to be paying after markup. So if I were to sit in a consultation with somebody, I wouldn't necessarily want for them to see all of this information. I can go in here and hide all of those different cost points that I wouldn't want my client to see, so that I can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go up to my privacy mode here. I'm going to toggle that to, let me go ahead and save first. Important lesson, everybody. Even I do it myself. Always save. All right, so privacy mode, I'm going to go ahead and toggle that to on, and we'll see how this hides our costs. Something to note though here is that we are looking at this here on the worksheet, but this is going to be true for across the board. So this is going to be prevalent in your recipe gallery. It's going to be in your item gallery. It's going to be, you're going to hide the cost page here because you really won't need to see that in your consultations with your brides or with your clients, if you will. But you'll see that it now hides your markup. It's going to hide your costs. It's going to hide your cost per stem. And all your client is going to be able to see is this is the end result. This is how much it's going to be per stem and result. This is how much it's going to be for the total price of this particular bouquet. So we saw kind of an uptick in using privacy mode, if you will, because people can now jump onto a Zoom call and they can have a consultation via Zoom. You know, convenience is key, especially in today's world. So if there's an option for your client to be able to contact you and sit down and have a meeting and really feel like they are getting the full experience without making the trip out to your shop or you know, meeting you at your building or anything like that, I would say that's a great feature to have, because time is money, as we all know. And just like it's time is money for us, time is money for our clients too. So if they can utilize this feature there in their house while still getting the full consultation here with your client, all the better. So as we're going through, you'll also notice though that Allison and Laura there are putting some links into the chat. If you guys are interested, any of these features, you can look and see some additional information there. And then of course, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. All right, and Morgan, yes, you definitely can expand the variety there and see kind of where it's being utilized and everything. So I am definitely glad to see that that will help. Thank you so much for writing in, letting us know. I'm going to go over into our item gallery for our next feature. So I'm going to go over to resources, and then I'm going to head over to the item gallery. And then on the item gallery here, so I'm going to briefly kind of touch on collections. I know that we've done a tips and tricks on this already. We're probably going to have another one in, I want to say December or something like that. So if you guys missed out on that, just keep an eye out. We will be having another one on collections. But here, another time-saving feature is to create collections. So when we talk about collections, we think about these more in the way of folders. So you can have, let's say, just like we have here, our color collections. And within that color collection, we have individual colors. So we've got our white collection, our coral collection. This is also another great like wow moment when you do a consultation with your client here in privacy mode. So they can come in here, they'll see all of these beautiful tiles that you have. It's nicely organized, so they can say, yeah, my colors are going to be pink and green, or they're going to be peach. You can go right into that specific collection and look at all the items that pertain to that color scheme. For now, though, we're going to go in here and look at the more details page. So not a lot of people know that you can go into more details about these items. So primarily, when you go in here to look at items, you're going to be looking at either the image view, which is what we see here, or you're going to go into the table view here, and you can just see kind of a brief overview of all of your items, the type, stems per bunch, all of that stuff that you might need to know about your items on the back end. However, you can also go into what we call the more details page. So on the more details page, and let me go ahead and turn my privacy mode off here before we go into that. But on the more details page, you're going to see all of the same features that you see when you click on the item modal, but you have some additional options here that are really going to help basically keep your pricing in line, if you will. So let's go ahead and go to our more details page. So once our more details page loads here, we're going to see, like I said, some of the same options that you see when you click on the initial modal there. So you're going to see your colors, your images, but you're also going to have what's called order and event history. So when you have an item that you have ordered or that you have put onto one of your events, it's going to show up here into your data history. It looks like I haven't used this one. So let's go ahead and go into a different item so that way we can see all of those wonderful features and options there. But what this is going to allow you to do is you can see what am I normally pricing this item at? what am I quoting my client versus what am I actually paying once I get to the cost page. So these items are really going to help you to see, what are other people doing? What are they putting on their worksheets? How much am I really off by what I'm quoting versus what my wholesaler is actually charging me? So I can go in here and I can say, okay, first is my order history. So these are items that I actually ordered. And again, nothing is magic. So these are going to be pulled from your cost sheet. So if you guys are not utilizing your cost sheet and putting in the actual prices that you are ordering these items from, highly recommend it, because all of that information is going to be populating over here. So on our order history here, I've got my average. So on average, I am putting a price of 46 cents per stem for this particular item. I can also look and see, okay, these are all of the events that I've ever used this item in. Here are the prices in which I put on there. You can see that there's a variation of different prices on here depending on how old it was, or how long ago it was. Maybe it's definitely increased since all of our pricing has been inflated on product. But you can go back and see all of those different costs that you actually put onto the worksheet itself, or excuse me, on the cost page. On your event history, though, this is where you're going to see what you put onto the worksheet to quote your client. So I can go in here and I can say, okay, well, my average price is going to be 45 cents per stem. So it's only 1 cent different from my average order history here. But if you come in here and you say, okay, well, I'm consistently quoting this person at 25 cents, but I know that I'm consistently buying this item at 30 cents or at 40 cents. You can really come in here and see, okay, I need to go in and up my pricing because clearly I'm missing the mark here on, let's say, 10 cents per stem. And, that really adds up. So I can go in here and edit that. And I can go over here. You can also see here, our company average is 46 cents. So I can either choose to go in here and change that to 46 cents, or maybe I want to change it to 30 cents, whatever happens to be going on at the moment. And I also know that things are a little inflated at the moment. And while we hope, knock on wood, that things are not going to stay that way, I think that it's best to go ahead and update those items. And that way, when it does kind of go down a little bit, you can come back in here and reorganize that again. But this is a great way to kind of utilize our tools and see how you are adding up everything and am I charging enough? That's one of the most common questions that I think I get asked is, am I pricing this correctly? Am I charging enough? And if you are asking that, I definitely recommend to go in here and look, because you can see it plain as day as long as you've been logging your things on your cost page, that you are definitely off a little bit. Even if it's by a couple cents, change it, because that couple cents adds up. All right, so that was our more details page there. Does anybody have any questions about any of the features that we've gone over so far? So that's going to be our custom properties, recipe options, the favorite all items, the items used, the more details page, any of those features that anybody has any questions on. I'll give it a minute here just in case anybody is typing. And then we're going to kind of go over into our proposal, and we're going to see a couple of additional options there as well.
I have a comment about the items used page.
Yes.
And I know it hasn't happened yet that we're able to print that, but I figured out if I opened all of the arrows, so I saw where everything was being used,
yeah,
I could do a huge copy and then go paste that in Word, and then I could print it. And where that helps me is if I go to my vendor and they don't have a certain rows, I can see where was that rows used and how I can substitute for it.
Yeah.
So I might wind up with 7 pages because I can't condense the amount of space it uses, but at least I figured out a way that I could print it on my own.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great workaround. I really appreciate that, Maureen. And anybody else who is kind of struggling with that, I recommend definitely kind of using that workaround, but also, again, if there's something that you guys want to see, I think Maureen, I think I already have that one logged for you, but if anybody else also would like to see that feature and the option to print, let me know. I definitely love the feature requests, and the more times it's asked, the more likely we are to implement it in the software. But I appreciate that, Maureen, and thank you so much for letting everybody know.
Yeah, I find it really helpful, especially with the supply chain issues right now.
Yeah. I think that definitely we're all kind of trying to think outside of the box on a few different areas here because of the supply chain. So, I appreciate that. All right, anybody else have any questions before we head over into the proposal? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and head over onto the proposal here. As many of you may know, we did recently add some additional features here on the proposal. Some of those features are actually utilized in other areas of details. And if you are familiar with that, then you know that I am talking about tokens. So tokens here can be used in a variety of different ways. We have a full list of available token options, which if one of you guys, either Allison or Laura, will go ahead and add that in there. I have probably about 3 or 4 different variations of this same list, but they could all be utilized in all areas. So here on the proposal, though, we've got a couple of different ones that are automatically populated. So that's going to mainly be on the right here, your company info. All of that is going to be pulled from the company's page. And that's going to be located on the main menu here under company and then info. So it's going to pull in your company name, the address, city, state, zip code, all of that information there. And it's going to add it right over here onto the top of your proposal. I know that we have some people who are working with multiple businesses, multiple locations. Possibly you have a specific salesperson that specifically dealt with this particular person and you want to have their information on the top. So that was the reason that we added in the option here to adjust some things. So you can see now that we have our tokens here, but you can also go in and change that to say, okay, well, I don't want the company email. I want Susie Hughes email in sales. And you can add that in there. But the tokens are really going to help you to save time. You can also go over onto the left-hand side here and adjust your page numbers. So that's going to be that footer at the bottom of your pages. And it's going to just say the client name and then the page number of total pages. But I know that some people want to have the name of the event, or maybe you want to have the location there, or whatever is pertaining to you and your business and what works best for you guys when you get on scene. You can go ahead and format this however you would like, and you can utilize tokens to do so. So what are tokens? Tokens basically are going to pull in information from other areas. So let's say the company name that you have listed in your info, and it's going to automatically populate it into your proposal. The things that you use here on the proposal may be the same. So it could be always your company name or your company address or your city, state, zip. But you can also utilize these tokens in your contract terms. These could definitely change. So let's say it's going to be the next billing date, or maybe it is the grand total of the event, the client's name, whatever that happens to be on your on your templates for your contract terms. You can go ahead and add those tokens in. And what that does is anytime that you start a new event, it's going to pull that client's name in. It's going to pull the grand total for that particular event. So that way they're getting really like a customized proposal or a customized set of contract terms that lists out exact numbers, exact information about the client, exact information about the event, without having to spend the time to personalize it. So I highly recommend checking out tokens for your proposals. I would also recommend checking out the tokens for your contract terms, because it's going to allow you to provide that personalized service without spending the time to do it. So the link for that is also in the chat there. So feel free to bookmark that or come back at a later date. And of course, if anybody has any questions on tokens, because you know, they do look confusing, just feel free to reach out to the support team. We're happy to help with you with that as well. And then moving off of the proposal here, I'm going to go over to kind of something that Maureen had touched about, which is substitutions. So if I go over to my cost page here, you know, we're having problems getting product. The product that we are finding, we may be having like drastic ups in price because it's just costing so much for the product to get here. And of course, shipping is a whole nother story, but we may need to substitute some items here. So if I go in here and let's say this baby's breath pink, I want to say, okay, if that's not available, I'm going to add a substitution. So again, I'm going to click on the plus symbol here and I'm going to click add substitution. That's going to populate a secondary line here. So I can go in here and say, okay, select substitution. I'm going to go in and just start typing in baby's breath. So maybe they don't have pink, but burgundy is a nice option. So we can go in here and say, okay, if they don't have the pink, we're going to do the burgundy. And I'm going to save that. And so I know you're thinking, okay, well, how's that going to help us on our actual recipes and how are we going to know? And, you know, that may not always get conveyed from one area, the person that's putting into details to the person who's actually putting the arrangements together. And, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. So what we're going to do is it's actually going to show up on our recipe PDF. So let's head over into our documents page here and we'll see how this presents on the recipe PDF. So on the documents page, I'm going to navigate to recipe PDF here. And we want basically to be able to convey all this information without having to physically tell somebody. So if I go down here, I can see now when I print this out, so this is the PDF that I'm going to print out before I start making my arrangements, so I know how much of each arrangement I need, how much product is going into each one, what types of product. But now I can also say, okay, as I'm building out this product, if I don't see the baby's breath pink there, I know that my substitution for that is going to be baby's breath burgundy. So I now have that there. This is also going to be something that prints out when you export that CSV file from the cost page. So if you are sending it off to your wholesaler, they are going to be able to say, okay, well, they want pink. I don't have pink. Pink is in high demand, but we've got the burgundy. So now they know that they can substitute that burgundy out there. So it just makes everything a little bit more streamlined. We don't have to go back and forth of, okay, we didn't get the pink. Who didn't get the pink? No, it's burgundy. So now we have that on there and that's a possible substitution there. For anybody that doesn't know about the PDFs here that we have in the documents section, these can all be printed. You can download all of them. They're all available to you. The download and print buttons are going to be up here in the upper right-hand corner. So if you guys want to utilize these, you can. Other documents here are going to be the executive PDF. For anybody that was on our Facebook group yesterday when that question came in from, I believe it was Jerry, about the use of the executive summary. I absolutely loved all of the answers. There were definitely varying degrees of answers and how they use it, why they use it. Some of the things that were said were that they print it off and they put it in that finalized file once everything has been paid. You can see the summary of expenses here, the grand total, and just like generically what was included. So you can put that in their file, or in addition to that, you can also send it off to your client and say, okay, well, here's the executive summary. It has pretty much all of the stuff listed out. It's got your payment terms and what you would be paying when, but it's not going to give them any of the pretty. You didn't spend a whole bunch of time making recipes and grabbing items and all of that for a bride that may or may not book you. So in that case, you can give them the executive summary here and they can go ahead and say, you know, yes, I want to book, no, I don't. And then once they book, then you can make the pretty proposal and give them all of the recipes, because, you know, we definitely don't want them shopping you around and trying to find somebody that's going to do it cheaper. So multiple uses for the executive summary, however you choose to use it is up to you. And I think that's, like somebody else said, the great thing about details, that you can kind of utilize any of our features to fit your company's needs. So that's the executive summary. And then under our delivery PDF here, so this is going to be where things need to be delivered and when. It's also going to have the brief event schedule here. It's going to have everything that needs to be dropped off in the delivery checklist, and then a place for your client to sign and confirm, yes, I received all my product. Everything looks good. I'm not going to come back later and say that, you know, my flowers were dead or anything like that. So you can have that document there. And then you also have this pickup checklist. So this is going to be anything like your bases, your rentals, things that need to be picked back up. And then somebody in the company will sign and say, yes, I received everything back from this person. They're all good to go. Again, this can also be printed out or downloaded. All right, any questions on substitutions or anything here in the documents section of details? All right, so just like we saw the substitutions here, we do have a couple of other options that you may not be aware of as well. So here on the cost page, you can add a substitution, but if we click on this plus symbol, we can also add a supplier. So let's say you did not purchase items from one of our partners here in Details, but you still want to notate who you got that product from. Who am I supposed to be receiving these items from? And undoubtedly, it's not all going to be from the same supplier. So to notate who you're going to get what from, you can add that supplier line here and just start typing in whoever that happens to be. Let's just say it's going to be Jet Fresh, and then I can notate that. This is also going to be something that will be on that CSV file. So if you wanted to, just like you print it out for when you are ordering product from your wholesaler, you can also print it out afterwards, and you can say, okay, here's my pull sheet. This is what I need. I need this many of that. It's coming from this supplier, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, you can also go ahead and add an additional supplier. So let's say I wanted to get this baby's breath, and Jet Fresh has, let's say, half the quantity I need, but I need my full quantity. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, okay, Jet Fresh only has half. I'm getting half from them, but then I'm going to get the other half of that from, some other wholesaler. You can add in multiple different wholesalers if you're getting it from multiple places, and you can really split that up. Then the last thing here is going to be to add a note. Notes are not printed out by CSV, but you can add notes here if you guys need to notate anything about your orders or pull sheets or anything like that. So just a couple of different options there, and things that I find most people are not aware are there. All right, so then the last thing that I want to talk about today is kind of on the same wavelength of ordering. Of course, you can order from individual events here. Okay, for this event, I need these stems, et cetera, et cetera. But we all know that likelihood is you're going to have 5-6 events this weekend, or maybe you have just 2-3 events, and you need to order all that product all at once. So I'm going to go over to the main menu here. I'm going to go down to reports and then items needed. So on the items needed report, I'm going to be able to select multiple different events for a weekend and pull all of those items at once. So let's just say I'm going to go into 2023 because we don't have that many in here. All right. So let's say I'm going to do these 2 events, and this is going to be in one weekend, and I want to run a report for all of those items. I'm going to select those and then run the report. Once the report loads, I'm going to be able to see a ton of information. So I've got the event date, what my client's name is, like whose event is this going to be on, the item name, the event quantity, and then the total quantity. So let's say I'm using a particular stem in multiple events. I can see the quantity per event, but then also the total quantity itself. I can also see how many bunches am I utilizing, and then what's the estimated cost per stem. And then I've also got in inventory or to purchase. So if you have items that you have an inventory on in the back end, it's going to say, okay, you have 6 of these in house, but you need a total of 10. So go ahead and order 4 more. I also have the type of item here and then the event name. The great thing about this sheet is you can also go ahead and click into either the event by clicking on the event name, or you can also go over to the client and go on our client record by clicking on the client there. So just like on the cost page though, this is also completely either printable or exportable. It also exports into a CSV file. When you export that, then you will have it to send off to your wholesaler there. And then you can just go into the respective accounts once you have the product ordered and enter in all of your costs and order information. But in addition to what you see here, you can also choose to hide or display any information that you want. So right now I have every column that I have an option for to be visible here, but I can also uncheck any of these as well. So if I don't think that my client's name is really going to be of any value to the wholesaler to know, I can take that out, or I can, not show the event name. So anything that I want to take out or add in, I can do so here as well. All right, and that is pretty much all I have to cover today. We covered an awful lot. Does anybody have any questions? And feel free, if anybody has any questions at this point, you guys can turn on your microphones and jump in at any point. Alrighty then. In that case, this concludes our tips and tricks webinar for today. As I said before, if you guys have any questions or you think of something after we get off the call, which is undoubtedly how it always happens, feel free to reach back out. Yeah, you're welcome, Maureen, of course, and thank you, Morgan. I appreciate that. You guys can definitely reach out using the chat feature here, and if you want to put in any requests or anything, you're going to go to support and then the contact us form there. Can you show us how to add a new team member? I can, Corey. Yes, I can. All right. So on the main menu here, I'm going to go over to the settings menu. On the settings menu, I then have an option called authorized users. For anybody that doesn't know, you can add multiple team members in here to your account. Each team member would have their own login information as far as like their username and password. And then they would also be able to utilize user by user settings. So for example, on the event list, that's a user by user basis. So Jessica can have every column we have, whereas Susie might only need these 2 particular columns. So a couple other places and details that are like that. But to send a team member invite here, you're going to go onto this page and you'll see this send team member invite button. Once the box pops up, you're going to fill in the first name, last name, email, and then you're going to select their role. You won't have the super admin role because that's just for us here in the office, but you'll have owner, manager, and employee. And then you'll go ahead and send that invitation off. Once that invitation goes out, that person is then going to receive an email. In that email, it's going to have instructions on how they would set up their password, and then they'll be able to go in directly to the site. So that's how you would add a new team member. You can also see when that was sent out and if they claimed it, what day they claimed it on. So all of that information is there as well. And then if anybody would like to add additional users, depending on your plan, it is $25 per user past either 2 or 4. If you have an enterprise plan, you come with 4 users. If you have an annual or a monthly plan, you come with 2 users. So anything additional there is going to be $25 per month. And then, yeah, so any questions on that? What are the different levels of access for owner, manager, employee? So employees are only able to access the events that they are assigned to or that they create. So if I was an employee and John made an event, but he didn't assign me to that event, I can't go in there. I can't look at it. I can't change anything. So they can only access events that either they are assigned to by the creator or that they have created themselves. Managers have access to everything, but they can't do subscription information. And then owners, of course, have the option to utilize everything in there, and they can change subscriptions, cancel, update, change plans, change anybody else's role in the company here on that on the authorized user page. So those are the differences there. Thank you for that question. Corey, did that answer your question though, also? Wonderful. Yes, my pleasure. All right. Anybody else have any questions here? All right. In that case, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. Like I said, if you guys end up thinking of anything, just let me know. And then other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. It is Halloween week, so I hope that you guys are out and doing some Halloween things. If you guys end up creating some fabulous Halloween arrangements, which I'm sure some of you will, feel free to share those on our details group page. If you guys are not a member of our group page, I highly recommend it. It will be at the top as a link. It'll say community on our follow-up email here. So anybody who is not a member, definitely join that. And we want to see what you guys are creating. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.